Welcome to the DGRN Podcast, first episode of it. For returning people that are in the Discord server or just watched videos, welcome. This should be a very interesting little insight. We'll maybe have some drivers on. I'm right now by myself, so I'm gonna have to make this work. But for newcomers, this is a real racing league. I'd suggest watching. I would suggest watching a few racing videos from trucks to bush to cup, just so you get the idea of where everything's at. I'd say like 3 races kind of easy, even if you don't have the time, just skim through it. Might get somewhat of an understanding of what's going on. But first episode, we have to talk silly season. So, oh my gosh, there's so much happened during during yesterday. Yeah, it really is. It's the most craziest silly season I think we've had in the league, like almost ever, I would say. Almost ever. So we're gonna try to go for it one by one. Go through every single little thing. If there's 2 people that might come in and join the call, but at the moment, again, it's just me. So let's see. I'm trying to find. All right. So there was some. Um, oh yeah, actually, we'll start from September the 4th. Martian was signed to Fast Kitty Racing, owned by Ray Capone. Martian, of course, driving their Ford truck, and he was supposed to be driving the 53. And silly season went pretty silent for the next day, September 5th. Nothing really happened during that day. Just a lot of normal days. Usually, silly seasons really get a little crazy up until like before the season or out the off season. That's where usually, but this is like before. And Zach the Nobody DG went up and offered Cap to the 10, Ranking to the 98, and Adrianity to the 14 next season. And San Volcano to the 89, Garlic to the 40, and Martian to the 15 in the Bush series. Garlic and Martian were the first to accept, which means Martian went up, jumped ship, and goes to the Bush series now. Ray, of course, was not too happy about it. Hydra went on, signed on to the 91 in the Bush series, and it went on for a little bit. Fast Kitty Racing would go on to offer I Kyle 5 Larson, which his name's gonna pop up a little bit more for the for the 5 truck in trucks for the next season. And then we get to Rye King with FRM. Rye King had been sort of rumored to be leaving DG Motorsports for FRM for some reason. He went on and accepted that deal, and of course that wouldn't make Zach Nobody DG very happy, but it was all right for that type of thing. Uh, went a few minutes went by without anything crazy happening in terms of like signings, but there was a bunch of like, whoa, like all this came out of nowhere, you know. It was interesting. Kyle went to the Bush Series team first, initially, we'll say. HP got a renewal for his contract to stay on DG Motorsports. So he was there, accepted the deal, so he was going initially to the 14. And then NCG opened up Blackout Racing, new team owned by him. And not only did he open a new team, but he's still one of the FRM drivers. The Boom was given the number 16 ride for season 10, and the Boom accepted it and went on. and things just got crazy from there because now Larkin's owner of FRM just signed uh just signed on Riking to add to his fleet, and then he loses another driver, but wasn't in the same series, so it doesn't really go too crazy. Also, JB Motorsports offers Aiden and Tony to Cup. Tony is going to the 9, I think, and Aiden's going to the 48. So we're pretty deep into like everything now, and Kai is here with me now. So hello.
What have I missed?
We have been just talking about just the sequence of signings already. Just everything. We're pretty deep into it. About like just got to the part where and Kyle went up and signed with JB Motorsports and whatnot. So Daytona
Only
has not
cover
off.
silly season.
Yeah, silly season. We're going over all of it.
All right.
We're pretty deep-ish into it. Um, Kyle, I mean, Ray was trying to get Kyle. I don't think Kyle's going with JB Motorsports, and Lincoln gets a ride in the 21, so that's cool. Uh, Lincoln has been doing all right this season. Not crazy, eighth in points. Gonna need to do a lot more to get into the playoffs, but I would say he's doing all right for his first season. Not bad, but not outstanding either.
Yeah,
And
I
think
agree.
think that's it for silly season for the most. Well, there's a little bit more, but we got a bunch of free agents. I believe there's like 10 or free agents left right now.
You covered the FRM signings.
Yep, all of them. All of them.
All right, so it looks like you've done the majority of this. So
Yeah. I'm gonna think we'll go over people's seasons from like I guess the playoff field and and maybe some other drivers that are near the cut. Actually, let's do the cutoff because the cutoff's gonna be important later.
well, where do you want to start?
Start with trucks, I suppose, since that's interesting. I'll send a little screenshot. Oh, actually, you have a screenshot, so it's fine.
I do have a screenshot. Looking at truck points with what? How many races we got before?
Got 4 races: Darlington, Watkins Glen, IRP or Lucas Oil Speedway, and Daytona. That is left on the schedule.
So looking at it, really, the points battle sits between the last two in, which is Jelen and I don't want to say this name wrong. Mad, I guess. MRD, but I don't know. It looks like an A. Anyway, it's besides the point. Those two are in over Genesect and Lincoln, who I believe is actually trying to make a charge for the playoffs right now, but has not been doing the greatest job of that. So those, and then there's Emilia, who's in 9th. I mean, not much to cover. It's kind of an inconsistent season for a lot of the guys under the cut line. It's been really just the big 3 story above the cut line with Hydra, Mars, and Ray. But, all 3 of them looking to secure playoff points, that would be very crucial for their seasons because they're so tight in the points as it is. All of them have won, if I'm correct. So, I mean, just they're all trying to get as high in the points as they can. And then 4th place in points, Billy kind of just as well trying to get as high in the points as possible.
Yeah, he hasn't showed for a couple of races as well. San Volcano made his return at Richmond and won the damn thing, so he's doing pretty well for himself, I would say. Uh, he might be a dark horse, even though he's like 5th in points. If he keeps this winning streak up, he's gonna get a lot of playoff points and it might uh, uh, leapfrog some of the guys in front of him just based off his wins because he got 50 playoff
Definitely
points.
agree. Definitely
Uh,
agree.
and for these drivers under the cut line, these next four races are very different. You got Darlington, a very interesting track. Emily won there last season. Uh, she did it not in dominating fashion, but she was running kind of in the mid pack, but kind of near the front, around that third, fourth place range, and got the win in a photo finish. So maybe she's good there. Watkins Glen, I mean, you got your road course guys like Ray Capone, Hydra, Mars, kind of maybe. So look for one of them to be near up the front. Lucas Oil Speedway, we haven't actually ran there in quite a while. So it really goes. It's kind of anywhere anyone goes for that race. I think Genesec has been decent at the short tracks, at least from last season. This season he's been struggling a little bit, and then Daytona, of course, winning you're in. Really, if you can just stay off the wall at Daytona, you have a shot to get yourself in the playoffs.
I think it's really important that you're also not sixth on the cutoff because, like what Jelen did by showing up at Richmond, I believe was the last truck race. Uh, he put himself ahead of MRD, and that basically means he's not eligible to the winning you're in, meaning he's not able to follow due to that winning you're in because he is fifth in points and not last of the guys in the cutoff, which
Indeed,
is huge.
it really is huge. It makes getting into fifth or for Cup Series sake, seventh, really, really important to stay in that position and not fall out of it in case someone else does surprise everyone and grab the win. But that's Truck Series. Uh, I'm gonna be I'm looking forward to Darlington especially, but also Watkins Glen. I feel like that will be a race where not only we see some road course guys, we might see someone like Genesex maybe do well there. You never know.
Yeah, there's always a surprise at road courses. They always just seem to pick it up one time and then they're fast and they get the chance to win.
Yeah, I
But
would say so.
not much more to hit on there.
Moving on to the Bush series, you got your top six: Cap, Aiden, Tony, Kirst, Michi, and Glenn in that order. And then outside looking in is the Boom, Aiko, Custard, Trey, Zaki, Fufu, Firelight, Led, Labo, Garlic, Bakers, and Ryan Blaney, which means there's 16 drivers in Bush that have scored points thus far, with five races to go in the playoffs or regular season. Excuse me.
I think the very obvious conversation here is how everybody in the top four is within about 80 points of each other. They're all very close to each other. Aiden took second from Tony in the points not too long ago. Cap still leading the points. I think he's got one or two wins, maybe even a few more on the season.
Got four
Uh,
wins on the season.
yeah. Cursed, kind of the consistent. He shows up, gets his points, and I mean it's working out for him right now at least. Michi sitting in fifth. I mean, not the most consistent on showing up, but has had a good season, which has allowed him to be still in the top five in points. And then lastly, Glenn hasn't shown up a lot recently, if I'm right, but did score a lot of points in the beginning of the season, which has allowed him to be sixth in points over the Boom, but not by all that much. That is only a 9 point gap. Or no, excuse me, 11 point gap.
Indeed. And then the Boom, of course, he got those two wins at Montreal and Pocono. Kind of given to him, honestly, and he hasn't really done super well anywhere else, but he's still in the conversation to maybe go try to steal this thing. Ico Custer part time. He's lurking in eighth, which is shows how much just being part time, how much you can do. uh, just getting points. Trey recently is out of a ride for next season, so he's looking for something. If he gets in the playoffs, it might give him a better chance at it. But everything's closing up super quickly. Just yesterday alone, we had about like what
Eight,
20 like
eight. Yeah.
yeah, 20 to 18 spots just taken just like that. Uh, so gotta have to be quick on your feet here.
And then, kind of looking at it from those three guys we just mentioned, the Boom is not the fastest by any means at every track, but he seems to be having a variety of a skill set, meaning he can be fast anywhere, but it's sporadic. So if he can just find the pace at one of these next few races, I do believe he can contend for the chase spot, but he's gonna have to beat Glenn, and Glenn is not that far ahead. But if Glenn is to show up, I personally feel like Glenn has a better chance of making it.
I hard agree on that one. Trey also is. He's probably gonna. Right
He's
now,
gonna
he's probably in a must-win situation. If I'm gonna be honest with you, because there's only 5 races left, and you can gain about like 100 points within 5 races. But
not
golly, it's gonna be tough when if Glenn and the Boom are finishing in front of him or just a few spots behind him.
looking at it. Trey on down to like Zaki Fufu, Firelight, Leduc. They're all must win at this point. They've all had. I know Fire actually won, if I'm right, a few races ago,
Yes,
but
he did.
not consistently showing up, which will probably end his playoff hopes unless he is to win Daytona. But I think the biggest question mark is I Cole Custer. He sits eighth in points. He's what 61 points back part time, but he did win at Coda, which is a road course, and we do go to another road course, which he's very, very good at. So I wouldn't put it out of the question that he gets into that battle, but because he's part time, would he count?
The rule I believe is that if you get into the playoffs as a part-time, you can go full-time for the rest of the season. It doesn't happen very often, but there's 2 road courses left. There's Watkins Glen and the Indy road course. Uh,
Very good. I know he's very good at Watkins Glen, and he's not. And I haven't seen him at Indy Road Course, but I know he's very good at road courses in general. So I wouldn't put it past him to be running well at this race. So I mean,
Anything could happen.
if,
Literally anything goes, I suppose.
and he's not too
Uh,
far back. Again, only 61 points. That's very doable.
Definitely. I think that's probably within a race, actually, if assuming that the Boom, Glenn, or just Glenn really, or the Boom, anyone that doesn't really get that's in front of him doesn't get any points. That's basically just having a perfect race, and that could be easily done at Watkins Glen.
And do not put Michi past it because Michi does sit in fifth, and he's not all that far ahead, honestly. Because if you look at the Boom, he's not even a whole 50 points behind him. The Boom is what 47, right? 47 points behind him. Uh,
Do
so
the
that
math on
is
that.
also doable in the race. So I'd say about the fifth to eighth place range is where you're looking at if you're trying to make the playoffs. Other than that, I'm looking to win at Daytona. That is your best bet, unless you can have a miracle stretch of races, which it can happen. Happened multiple times in the past. So I wouldn't put it past it, but the more likely option here is that you got to point your way in.
Definitely here. Uh, I for playoff points wise, it's actually sort of close, honestly. I think Aiden has a bit of an edge. He's gotten a little bit more pulls than anybody with like 4, I think 4 or 3 or something like that. But
Those
uh,
are 20 to 15 to 20 playoff points that some people will not have. Cap, who has 4 wins, which will put him at 40, but other variables are in there. Tony, I don't know if he's won all that much this season. He probably has, and I'm forgetting.
twice, one at
Uh,
Homestead Road Course and one at Martinsville, both in the same card. So that's interesting.
and then Kirst, if he can pass Tony, he's gonna be able to gain some playoff points, but he does need to do that, and he's closing in on them. But he's gonna need to do it in 5 races, which he is doing. So yeah, that top 4 battle is very close. So is the fifth to eighth place battle, and even then, the guy's not really in contention for the playoffs. It is still a close battle. Trey's only 11 ahead of Zaki Fufu. Fire's only about 17 ahead of Leduc fan. So like looking at these points gaps, it isn't too big. It's just they're all split kind of.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Playoff, yeah, once again, playoff points battle. It's really hard to see who's going to be really out front dominating, but that might actually be an interesting thing as well, because and with everyone kind of being in the same like 5, 10, maybe 15 point gaps, just with playoff points alone, it makes everything super closer, which is kind of like the theme for Trucks and Bush. Just everything's a lot closer than Cup right now, which we'll see in a minute. But that I think that's all you can really say about Bush at the moment. We'll probably come back for like predictions or maybe Darlington or something. I don't know. Let's go on to Cup Series now.
Moving on to that Cup Series, as the points sit, Larkins leads over HP, followed by Riking, Koval, Rainbow, Adriani, uh, Kai, myself, uh, Jasper, WWE, You want to say it? The rest?
Griffin lovers.
What?
Amelia, I guess, since that's the actual name, but yeah, I'll just change it right now.
Yeah. Then followed by Nico, NC, and Windows, who got deducted all his points for basically leaving the server and has not really raced since like earlier in the season. However, he was inside the playoffs, so that basically moved up Jasper into the playoffs. So very interestingly, now he's only 1 point ahead of WWE for that final spot, and it only takes one win to bump him out at
Definitely.
Daytona.
Now,
So
unlike Trucks and Busch, Cup has a bunch of races to go through. They go through DG Speedway, North Wilkesboro, Darlington, Richmond, Watkins Glen, Nashville Superspeedway, the Indy Road Course, and then finally Daytona, which I believe puts it at to about 7 to 8, or I think 7, races. Uh, there's a lot more time to really catch up and do all these types of things. But looking at the playoff battle right now, it's again 1 point takes one win. Mila's kind of farther back. Nico's an interesting case because he, at one point 2 seasons ago, was a championship caliber driver, was in the Final Four. Last season, he kind of just snuck his way into the playoffs, and then this season, he's completely fallen off. Confirmed to go to the Busch Series next season. So the goal I would assume for Nico is just to gain as much points as he can and maybe win Daytona to maybe get himself locked into playoffs. But I don't know. Every time he's on track or every time he does uh, join a race, he just seems to just not have the speed or just not really do much on track and doesn't have the point stays that he does need to move himself upward the point standings.
I think I can agree with that. Looking at it, he's not far back in points. He's only about 60 points, maybe. He's not far back. The problem is he's not getting as many points as Jasper would if he showed up, or WWE would if he showed up. Those guys who race, when they race, they gain points. Nico, when he races, he's getting 10 points a race, maybe 12.
Out there, yeah.
He's making the small gains, which if he was showing up to every race, would probably slide by, but he's not. He's showing up to every 4 or 5 races.
Maybe even 10 if
Exactly. Yeah.
it's kind of sporadic. He's kind of like picks a race, and if he doesn't do well, kind of goes on a hiatus, and then he's back for another race, and doesn't end up very well. So it's just unfortunate. Speaking of WWE, he did get a win at Elwood Super Speedway. It was originally won by Rainbow, but looking after the footage and how things really were said and talked out, WWE got the win at a Super Speedway race. He was pretty decent there. So that's something to keep in mind when we're heading up to Daytona, because he might be a threat to win that race and be able to lock himself in outright.
Yeah. I mean, he could very well also just point his way in. He doesn't even need to win because hypothetically, if he just passes Jasper by that 1 point, the whole you need to win thing is kind of gone. And Jasper, I don't think has won this season. I think every win is basically gone to Larkin or HP or Riking. So really, he just needs to point his way in and hope that Jasper doesn't win or anyone else below that cut line.
The only reason I say he should probably maybe win Daytona, it's better safe than sorry. He has not been as good up until this past race at Elwood. So a win at Daytona, just locking himself in just like that, would take a lot of the stress of who's really gonna really beat me if I'm, in the 8th spot. Same with Jasper as well. I feel like both of those guys need to have a good day at Daytona or just win it outright.
I think that's the same thing that goes. I think it goes for anyone, any series, anywhere. You just need to you want to win, make sure you're secure, and I mean it's the best option, but you can never always win. So I think it's always fair to just think that you might only need to point your way in, because not everyone's going to have the win. Some people are going to have to finish second. So that's just what I find interesting. And they still got 8 races. Like there's plenty of time to catch someone ahead of them in points, if needed. So that's also not out of the question.
But I want to talk about Koval for a second because Koval went on a tear. 3 races in a row, technically 4 if you count the All-Star race. He basically did a Kyle Larson. Was just on a tear, was up to second in points at one point, and just kind of just fell off a cliff. I think he had to get something fixed on his computer, and it's been not been very good. Rainbow's right now in fifth. He's going to the Busch Series. Uh, a bunch of like fourth and fifth is a very interesting placement because Rainbow at one point, season 6, was the champion, and then at DG Motorsports, jumped ship to JB Motorsports, and ever since then he has not made a championship caliber run like since that point. Not 2 seasons ago, not a season ago, and now he's running fifth, which isn't bad, definitely by any means, but just the big decline of what he was before and how he is now. I think Jasper said it earlier while we were in a call together that he just wanted the best for Rainbow, and I agree with that. I mean, he's not bad, but there's a significant drop off in his performance.
To put it blatantly, uh, the reason is he's fifth in points, and he's not. It's not like he's sucking. There's races that he looks like he could be a contender at, and he just kind of decides to sit towards the back. But when we get a bigger field, he's usually running second to last, third to last, kind of just scraping off the bare end of stage points or getting okay points in the race, and it's not working. Something's not clicking because he's not where he once was. And that's, I think, where a problem comes in, especially when you have 2 guys below him who are faster and are not able to make every race. So
Indeed.
therefore, he would be 7th maybe in points had these guys been able to show up to every race.
Definitely, I hard agree on that, but we'll go up and make some predictions for Darlington. I suppose. I mean, DG Speedway and North Wilkesboro is up next for Cup, but next weekend will be, or the weekend after next weekend will be the Darlington weekend. All the paint schemes, throwback and whatnot. So we'll start with trucks. Who is your pick to win at Darlington for the Wrangler Truck Series?
So I know Ray is not bad there. I think I've heard that he's pretty decent there. And Mars, you never know. Mars could just easily surprise us and go out win. But I'm picking Hydra. Maybe not the safest choice, but I think Hydra is gonna see the points gap he needs. He wants to try and get back to that points lead battle, and I think he'll try to win at Darlington, which I think he'll be successful for doing.
Well,
As for
you're not in a safe bet. I'm gonna go a little bit more riskier. I say I Kyle Five Larson gets his first win of the season at Darlington. Uh, there's not too much of a reason. He's been really pretty decent in the races he has shown. I believe he got second at Richmond, ran well at Coda until he had issues with pit road, and I think he ran pretty decently at Eldora. I don't know if he showed up to that race or Monza, one of the two, but I feel like Darlington is where he can put all of his cards on the line and video game it as Kyle Larson did on Sunday's race and be able to win at Darlington. That's my pick for Darlington. I don't know. Kind
I
of an
think
upset.
I think looking at the points battle wise, prediction wise, I think the points of order will stay the same. I don't think Genesect will score enough points this race to get past MRD, but I wouldn't put it past him getting closer. I think also Jellen's going to maybe not show up, so that'll aid Genesect's chance. And Lincoln, not too sure. I think if he shows up, he's going to be probably okay, but I don't think he's also going to pass Genesect in points, which means I don't think he's moving in either at the moment.
I'd say so. Uh, Next up for the Busch Series, Darlington. What is your pick? I'm kind of thinking right now.
You know, Darlington could go to anyone, but I'm gonna go Aiden. I feel like Aiden he's gonna battle, and I don't think he's gonna be the fastest car. I think there's gonna be maybe 2 faster cars, But when he wins, he seems to not always be just the fast car. He seems to be in that battle with someone. So I wouldn't put it past the idea that he just goes out and wins off of maybe someone wrecking or someone making a mistake and he capitalizes, which isn't a bad way to win. It's just the way he did win. Looking at it, he's got Cap, he's got Tony, two guys who I think could easily go out and challenge him for that win. Michi as well, maybe cursed, but I don't think anyone's gonna beat him when it comes push and shove. He's got probably the best luck when it comes to trying to win a race like that. So that's
Uh,
what I'm thinking.
Fair enough. And interesting tidbit that you said that is that Darlington last season, he won at Darlington last season. It was a different model, so things might be slightly different here, but that's something to put note into. I'm going to say that Michi wins at Darlington. I think I don't know if he ran there last season. I can't necessarily remember, but no, he did ran there. He was all right. He's definitely better at the draft tracks more than he is at the non-draft tracks. He did get a win at Monza though, but I feel like Michi would be the person to battle Aiden in the end of the race and would be able to come out on top for a second time because he was battling Aiden with a few laps to go on Monza. Aiden flipped over and basically gave Michi the win, but that is my pick for Darlington.
I think looking points wise, I don't think anyone on that cut line is going to show up. Being honest, so I think the cut line was still the same. I think Glenn will be ahead of the Boom, and then Cole Custer.
Yeah, and there's such a big gap between fourth and fifth. I don't think there's much of a way that Michi's gonna gain about
Yeah,
180, 170 points within 5 races, no less. I don't know.
and now the Cup side.
All right, you go make your pick. I'm gonna do something real quick.
Well, as I'm thinking about it, I think my choice here is going to be I'm going Reiking. I feel like Reiking might close the deal and take another victory. I think it'll be his fourth of the season. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, I think Reiking's gonna win, and I think it'll be battle. Like I don't think he's gonna drive away with it. I think Larkins will be a contender. I think you got to look at HP. He's always fast at these racetracks. If I hope we're going to Darlington because it would be so embarrassing if we're not. And I said this, but Rainbow would be a contender. I'm proudly speaking, a little biasly, but Adriani, if he shows up, gonna be a contender. I think I'll be a contender towards the end of the race. Don't know if I'll be able the fastest, but and then Jasper as well. He'll probably show up, try and score some points, which will be very needed for the cut line battle. And on that cut line battle, I think Jasper's gonna pull away. I don't think WWE is gonna, if he does show up, make all that many points up on Jasper, because Jasper was at Elwood running ahead, and was fast without draft to give off, and he would have probably contended for the win, but due to myself, got taken out, and I think that kind of costed him points that he could have desperately got ahead of for WWE.
Yeah, I'm back
But
now, but I heard you said
yeah,
Right King, so it's pretty epic.
I did I we're going to Darlington or no? I'm gonna be
We'll focus on Darlington since that's kind of been the theme around. But my pick for Darlington. Uh, oh gosh. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say an easy route with HP. He was pretty fast at Kentucky. I wouldn't say Kentucky's like similar to Darlington at all, not in the slightest. But he ran well at Darlington last season. Everyone was trapped a lot down because of Adriani's strategy. I don't think he's gonna pull the same strategy again. I think things will be different this season, and I think HP is gonna come out on top and maybe gain on Larkins as long as Larkins doesn't get like stage points in the first two stages and HP just wins the race. I feel like he'll make a game that won't be too much, maybe like a 20, 25 point game, maybe at most. Uh,
yeah.
I'd say playoff
I mean,
wise, everything kind of stays the same. If WWE shows up, I think he passes Jasper though, because he just showed at Elwood. So I figured since he doesn't have a ride right now, he just declined an offer to the Truck Series, which is interesting to me. I think he's maybe waiting for a Busch Series ride or a Cup Series race to somehow open up. But maybe I don't know. Maybe he goes out and tries to gain some wins on Darlington.
Didn't mention this, but I thought this was actually interesting that the last 2 wins in the Cup Series have both been by NB6. They're on a ride of momentum. They also had the one-off race for Te, who finished fairly well. I think he got third or second. So, you know, again, there's speed out of those cars, but it's more of a matter of consistently showing up. So either one of them could go out and run well, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, if they were in more of a points deficit, I'd feel like maybe it might be a little too late. But again, there's 8 races, so you never really know. Things could go down from here, could go up from here. We'll have to see. Um, just it's just interesting to see if they can carry that speed through DG Speedway, North Wilkesboro, Darlington, and then the next few races. But that's points wise.
Yeah.
Uh, Points and all that. Um, is there anything else we want to go up and say real quick?
I guess real quickly we can run down a driver's season if we need to.
I suppose so. Do you want to do playoffs or what we doing here?
I think we just really quick skim through the best guys in each division. And just
All right, so
see how
like
they're
just like do like the top
looking at.
3 or something. I guess the top 4
Yeah.
for Bush, since that's a thing. All right,
Yeah.
I'll start with Ray Capone. He has 3 wins this season. Auto Club, Las Vegas, and Monza. Popcorn is popping in the background, but it's okay. He has a 7-point lead over Martian, who has been pretty consistent. But Ray Capone, interesting. Makes a lot of races. If I can check real quick, I can think I have the number of races he's made. He has made a total of 16 races this season, so that's quite a bit for a 19 races in. So he's only missed 3 races. Pretty consistent. I think he'll probably do very well and still be in the points lead, maybe, but at the moment, it looks to be another typical Ray Capone season.
I'd have to agree. I think, he's running how he would usually. He ran part-time in Cup last year. Didn't do all that spectacular, I don't believe. I might be wrong, but I don't remember him doing great. And then he ran Busch full-time, right? I don't know. He ran something full-time, but I'm blanking out. So, and he ran fairly well in that too. So I think him going down the trucks and looking to win a championship is an interesting idea. And he's probably I don't know if he's the best driver this season, but I could successfully say he's one of, if not the best driver this season.
For Martian, correct? I was going everywhere.
I was more on Ray, but I think you could use the same logic for Mars. Kind of, he's also been arguably the best driver this season. Hasn't won as much. I believe he's got 1 win. Yeah, he has three. He actually has 3 wins. So, excuse me, he has 3 wins. One of them coming at Pocono earlier this season. He won at Charlotte, and he won at that is Coda. So 3 very different racetracks. A mile and a half, a big flat not flat, but big flat-ish 2-mile track, and he won at a road course. We have another road course coming up, and he's running well.
I suppose so. But yeah, more on Martian. He's been really good this season. Rookie out of MB6 Motorsports. MB6 has been pretty impressive in the truck series. Uh, they have shown their stuff. They're going away after this season, but they're definitely putting their best efforts, especially in the truck series season. But Martian, man, I think he could possibly steal this championship away, or is the championship favorite if he isn't already. Like 3 wins, matching Ray. Only 7 points behind. He has some pretty good tracks coming up. He led a lot of laps at Daytona. Uh, I feel like I'm pretty excited for Martian, especially for this postseason for him. I think can be a dark horse favorite to win this championship, but time will tell.
Now, he's not in the top 3 points, but I kind of got to point this out. Jalen or Silent, whatever you want to call him, has 5 wins on the season, excuse me. And if he consistently would show up, I feel like he'd also be in that playoff, or not playoff, he'd be in that points battle for the lead. He won at the Homestead Road Course in Phoenix back to back. Then he won back to back at Road America in Michigan. And then way later, our most recent winner in the Truck Series at Richmond. So also keeping an eye on him, as if he just would show up, he'd probably be in that battle as well.
But I also mentioned this earlier. Since he has 5 wins, I don't think he'll be in the lead. Maybe or maybe he might actually. With 5 wins, that's 50 playoff points. So he could very well be the
He got
leader. Uh,
5 polls.
uh, does he?
I mean, not 5 polls. I'm looking at the wrong thing. No, he doesn't have a poll. So actually, he's only got those playoff points and whatever he'll get for where he finishes.
Yeah, so
But
I'm gonna say it. Like he could take the points lead coming into these playoffs, and if he shows up in the playoffs, then he is going to be dangerous because he has shown already he can win a multitude of racetracks, whether it be a 1 mile track, a road course, a 2 mile track, uh, and a short track recently at Richmond. Only track he
any
hasn't won at is a super speedway, which is always kind of unpredictable and anything can happen in those races.
yeah, and he won at Michigan, which is a 2 mile. So anything really could happen. And then Hydra, lastly, cannot not talk about him. Started off hot, won the first 2 races of the season, Daytona and the Daytona Road Course. Kind of hasn't won since then, but he's been very, very consistent, which is keeping him in third in points and fairly close to the points lead. Had a very solid season. One of the more quiet drivers in the series, but does lead a lot of laps, does usually get a lot of stage points, which also does help his case. Not all too many poles, I don't believe. He's got 3 looking at it. Daytona Road Course, Bristol Dirt, and he's got 1 at Montreal.
Which was his most recent poll as of late. But if he shows up, I think he'll probably be fine. Playoff point wise, he's looking all right. Might be third or fourth in terms of like playoff points.
Yeah.
I'm getting called by my mother like every 2 seconds, man. It sucks. But apart from that, Hydra, I'd say not the championship favorite right now, but if he starts to pick up his performance, he definitely will be.
Moving into the Busch Series, unless you got anything else.
Nah, I don't got anything else. You can lead this off.
Leading into the Busch Series, the leader in points, Cap, has won 4 times this season. Started off the Daytona Road Course, which got him some points. He then went on to win in a kind of back and forth with Kirst. He won at Talladega and then Kentucky, which were split by Dover. And he also is our most recent winner at Elwood. So, I mean, he won the pole at Dover, but he hasn't gotten a lot of poles in the second half of the season looking at it, because more of his poles after that came at a track like, what are we looking at? Bristol Dirt. He got a pole at Phoenix, 2 tracks we don't go back to, I don't believe. No, Phoenix we go back to, but we did not go back to Bristol Dirt. So he has a decent amount of playoff points looking at it. Maybe I'm missing something here, but I guess kind of flowing on, keeping the momentum going here. Second in points, Aiden. Yeah, he's won. To say the least, he did win he started his winning season off at Las Vegas, arguably one of the worst races, I believe, of the season, but He did also win the pole for that race. He would proceed to go win Michigan a few races later. He hasn't won since then, but he's gotten poles respectively at Monza and Bristol. So he's fast, but he needs to close out the races. And he's second in points right now. So not too far behind. That looks like, if I'm doing my math right here, a 33-point gap to Cap. So very doable.
I would say so. Just passed Tony very recently. I think he passed him at Bristol, if I'm not mistaken. He had a pretty good race there. Won a stage and finished, I think, second. So, I mean, he's definitely fast. Just a matter of question of like, is he better than Cap? That is the bigger question. He definitely shows up a little bit more than Cap, but is he necessarily better in that regard? I think that's the big question going into the postseason.
And if it comes down to those two, looking at it, we go to Homestead, which is it going to be a draft race?
Yes, it will.
Well, that aids Cap because Cap just won the last draft race, beating out Aiden at Elwood. So I find that interesting too.
In fact, I think all of Cap's wins, well, maybe except for the Daytona road course, but three of Cap's wins has been at draft tracks, Kentucky, Talladega, and Elwood. So it seems like he has a knack for the super speedway stuff, which will come probably in handy at Daytona and Talladega. Two pretty important races, if you ask me, to go up and try to win.
Yeah, and since he won at the road course, we do have the Charlotte Roval in the playoffs. We have the Indy road course and Watkins Glen in the regular season. So he's got 3 another chances to win at road courses, which he was good at earlier.
Even so,
And
he can
then,
just go up and win at, track like Texas or Phoenix or
yeah,
Martinsville. Really, Chicagoland. They literally anywhere. I feel like Cap
he,
has a good chance to win.
he can win anywhere. I wouldn't pick him to win New Hampshire, but any other
Maybe not that.
racetrack, I could pick any other track, and I think he would have a chance to win, as well as a guy named Tony. I think Tony has a chance to win pretty much anywhere. He hasn't actually closed out all that much this season. He has 2 wins. I know one came at the Homestead Road Course way early in the season, and he won way farther from that at Martinsville. 2 completely different racetracks. One's a road course, one's a short track, and he didn't win the pole for either race he won. So clearly has a knack for just racing and passing people, it seems.
Well, the
I mean,
only pole of the season that was at Pocono, so I
yeah,
find that interesting. Um, I'd say yeah, I think he's more of a racer in terms of not qualifying, but racing in the actual race than just doing a few laps around the racetrack and qualifying very well. Uh, he has shown speed at the speedways, uh, some serious speed in fact. Uh, Definitely is near the top three mostly every race. Uh, does not like the loose setups, which may become a problem because these push cars are very light, very slippery. We saw that with a bunch of tracks earlier this season, especially
and
at Bristol
again,
Dirt.
it comes to it. And if we're coming to the thing, we have draft races, a decent amount of them in the playoffs. He finished 9th. I know he didn't necessarily finish the race, but he finished 9th. It's not anything spectacular, you know, to look at when you're going into a bunch of draft races. He won at the Homestead Road Course, which is a boost considering we have another few road courses coming up, as we've said. And his other win at Martinsville, we go to Martinsville again, and Phoenix it doesn't drive the same, but lengthwise, I mean, it's close. And it's really just making more aggressive turns. And Iowa, again, another short track. Haven't talked about it, but could also go out win there. You never know.
Yeah, I think Iowa's also a lanes track where one lane will be faster than the other, or you can make both lanes work if it's possible. So if he has a knack for the lane tracks, I feel like that could be a good chance for him to win as well. And finally, Cursed. We cannot like go without talking about Cursed. Man has uh I would say his breakout season. Got one win last season, and which was his first win. He's broke out 3 wins, Auto Club, Dover. Actually, I think 4 wins maybe or 3. No, we got 3.
It's
Never mind.
three. It's three.
4 in total. That's why I got confused. Auto Club, Dover, and Charlotte. Charlotte was more or less kind of lucky. Aiden got to the wall froze off turn 4 and just died, which was very unfortunate for him. But things happen on the racetrack, so it kind of was expected. But he ran well mostly that race. Uh, Cursed, I would say. I wouldn't say he's a dark horse because he's definitely shown he has the capability to win races, but uh, more on the draft race side, actually. I would say Auto Club and Michigan, he was very good. Both similar racetracks. Was able to use the draft pretty well past people. Chicagoland, I wouldn't say is like Michigan or Auto Club, but it is pretty long. Uh, you got Talladega. Super speedway races have always been good for FRM, but they can't. I don't think they can really seem to close them out. Koval in the Cup Series did just win Talladega recently. Well, not recently, but kind of soonish. Texas and Phoenix. Phoenix might become a draft track pretty soon. I don't think it was earlier. So there's a good chance that he might go up and win that race.
What I do find interesting looking through here, he actually doesn't have a pole this season, meaning he's lacking. He only has his if I don't know what the order for playoff points will be in the standings, but if it's what I think it is, he's only entering with 30 playoff points compared to everyone else who's going to have at least like 50. So that does not help him. And if that and I believe it's an extra point in the playoffs, right?
Yep.
That extra point, you never know. That could be the championship. So it would be important to become, not taking away from his speed, but just be better over a course of one lap. He's more of a consistent driver than anything. So that's why he goes up and wins. That's why he's gone and won a track like Dover, which takes consistent, like, everything.
Yeah, that's all. That was also a lifting track earlier this season. So uh, I don't know. Maybe he's better at the lifting tracks. I think he asked for some type of second after that race, and that helped him immensely, or something like that. So maybe that was the cause of it. But yeah, you have to be consistent uh, during these few laps. And Darlington might be one of those races because Darlington setup I wouldn't say is super hard, but it can be very easy to slip up and mess up and be kind of slow down on the inside lane and just also get in the wall and hit and get wall glitched and be sent back about 5-10 spots.
Mm-hmm. And
But
then that's pretty much it I got for the Busch series.
I'd say so. All right, moving on to the Cup Series, we got Larkins. Uh, who he's the favorite. There's no question or doubt about it. Man has the most poles and the most wins on the season. 9 wins. I'm gonna need to count how many poles. I think he has 10 poles this season.
I
Absolutely
actually did the
insane.
math. He has 160 playoff points built.
Good lord. HP got that
Nobody,
All-Star win, but that gives
nobody
25.
else, nobody else has even like 80. So he's entering the playoffs with like an 110 point gap. I actually did HPs as well, who has arguably been the second best driver of the season. He's only got 50. So Koval having his 30, but I don't know if he has one pole, but I don't know if it's giving him points because it was a Phoenix because it says no P. Uh, so other than that, Koval doesn't have really any poles. So yeah.
Yeah, I would say so as well. But yeah, going back to Larkins, man has been wild. He got like he could have had an 8 win race streak if it wasn't for Ryan King spoiling those 2 races. He gave the win to Ryan King at Charlotte, and then he kind of choked at Heartland Motorsports Parkway. So without those two things right there, he could have possibly an 180 playoff points, which is insane to think about. But uh, hasn't won since St. Petersburg, which was only just 2 races ago. But considering his recent reign of just dominance. It's interesting. TG Speedway is a short track, of course. He's basically won almost everywhere except for Super Speedway. So I think he's glad that Iris and Super Speedway is gone and DG Speedway is in, which is a short track, of course. But good chance.
So
I don't think he's been to DG Speedway at all, so I have a good chance to win there.
and we can't just say he's not won everywhere, because looking at it, he's won at, and I'm gonna name all the tracks, which there's a variety of them. He won at the Homestead Road Course to start the season. Then he also won back to back, winning at Auto Club and Las Vegas. Uh, he then won. He didn't win for a little bit actually. He kind of went a little bit winless, and then he won 2 in a row, going Sonoma and Atlanta, 2 very different tracks. He then won at Martinsville. He then also, after Reiking won that Heartland Park race, he won at Coda, then Monza, then St. Petersburg. 3 road courses, all due to kind of circumstantial, but or at least 2 of them were, but didn't end up winning them. And he hasn't won at a super speedway this season. So I find it interesting that we have a lot of those. We have Talladega straight in the middle, and it's a chase system, we've confirmed. So Talladega is going to be the wild card for him.
I'd say it's so. Daytona, he's pretty much locked in, so Daytona won't really matter too much. But yeah, I think that would be the race where I would say he needs to focus on most, because if he can do well at Daytona and not only win, that brings his confidence level up immensely for Talladega to be able to be not only be competitive, he's always competitive at these super speedway races, but never can close them out. If he can win at Daytona, I feel like he has much more confidence in him to go out and try to win at Talladega and close out that deal. And that I would say if he wins at Talladega, I'd say he would be your season 9 champion right there.
However, what does not help him in the slightest, though, is even though he will have about 100 points over everyone, that's not the current 300-point gap he has. That is not 300 points. So what could easily happen is he could have a stretch of bad races. There's guys like HP and Reiking and Cobalt, if he is able to race, that are very fast. They could easily try and make something happen here. So I wouldn't put it past it. However, I do obviously think Larkins is the favorite. And looking at it, HP is very good at the short tracks. He's been very fast there. He's got a few of them coming up. He's got DJ Speedway, North Wilkesboro. Darlington's not necessarily a short track, but it drives like one kind of. Richmond. So we've got about 4 tracks that drive like short tracks. And you can't forget that there's Bristol in the playoffs, as well as Dover. And you got Texas, or not Texas. You got Martinsville and Phoenix. So yeah, you got a decent amount of short tracks, and he's very good there. So if he can just, nab the wins, because he only got 2 this season, it would be very crucial to his championship hopes. Because he did win at Phoenix, which is kind of a short track, and he won at the Bristol Dirt, another short track. So I think it's something to look at.
Yeah, if I were anyway, I guess I can go over Reiking before I go for everyone else. But Reiking, I would say it's been an interesting season. I think he expected a little bit too much, and I think I was also a victim of it. That he expected himself to go out and win almost immediately in the Cup Series, which doesn't necessarily happen. Cap is a different story. It was circumstantial, of course, but he did win uh, in his first start. But it took Reiking 15 races. It took you a little bit longer, 21, which I think you had a good chance at Las Vegas if something silly didn't happen. You flipped over, but
Mm-hmm.
Reiking, interesting. He's moving over to FRM next season, so he knows where he's going. So I feel like I think the pressure is now on for him to start picking it up and going for a championship bid. Uh, One, of course, Charlotte. It's always been pretty good at the draft races, so there's quite a few of them in the playoffs, and then coming up in the regular season. And then he also went on a road course, which he's been kind of, I would say, inconsistent with the road courses. He's either been pretty good or pretty just kind of mid-pack, not really doing much. Maybe shows his face once or twice in the lead, but I put more of my faith in him in his draft racing ability, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, look, 2 points there I think that I can make here is he's not great. I mean, I've raced a lot of the short tracks, and he's not been running all too well. Martinsville, I remember he was a lap down for a while. Bristol Dirt, he was a lap down for a while. Just not not his tempo, I guess to say. He's been good. He's been good at the draft and I guess mile and a half races. Those have been his stronger suits. Yeah, I mean, He was. I don't. Did he race Las Vegas? I don't remember if he did.
I can't remember either. I can actually go
But
check it real quick, but we'll see.
I do not recall him being a fast. If he was, I don't recall him being one of the faster drivers. I remember it was me, HP Windows, and Larkins mainly that race. So again, his stronger suit seemed to be the draft races, and that's interesting because we just finished one at Elwood. He actually led a lot of the laps in the second half of that race. Without the problem for him, the advantage for him was he wasn't giving off draft. Late race cautions kind of didn't play to his favor, so he ended up finishing I think fourth or third. So not the finish he wanted, but it's the finish he got. So he still is able to get decent finishes in circumstances that may not benefit or do benefit him.
All right, I think that's all we got to say for the top three. Now, for every series, this goes for every series. If you're a driver and you're kind of in that fifth, fourth to eighth, or I suppose for Bush, fifth to sixth, and trucks, if you're not in the top three, let's go and say that. Uh, I would say the pressure is on to step it up, get poles, get wins, get all of that, because that is going to be very important for the playoffs. Because the strategy I did to go win my season 8 championship was to get as many wins and many poles in the regular season as possible, so that when it came to the playoffs, I can chill. Not chill too much. You don't want to go fall flat on your face, but you want to be able to get into the playoffs and feel like you're comfortable where you're at with a good lead. So I would say that is the best strategy. For trucks, that's going to be obviously harder since there's only 4 races left and not a lot of time to really gain unless you win everything. Daytona is a wild card, and if you're not good at road courses, that would be a yikes. But uh, the pressure is on for these drivers. I'd say you gotta have to start winning.
We talked a lot about the guys in fifth and sixth and that kind of range in the lower series. I think the last thing I have for at all in this is that like right now for Cup. So looking at that range, we talked about Cobalt earlier. We didn't touch on Adriani really all that much. Myself or Adriani, we didn't really talk about him.
Fair enough.
I th-
He won the Daytona 500, so it's interesting, I guess. He only got 2 wins this season, so I don't think he's made a lot of noise. Hasn't shown up a lot recently, but looked like he was gonna be an yearly championship favorite, and then he died, so a little unfortunate. But yeah, and
yeah,
Kai just recently won at Kentucky. Was fast at Elwood. If he keeps this streak up, man, I'm saying he's probably gonna be maybe a championship dark horse. I'm gonna say it right now. I'm kind of unsure, but I feel confident man's gonna be a factor at least in this championship.
yeah, I'm gonna say this as unbiased as possible.
Okay.
um, so I don't expect myself going out there and winning 4 of the 10 playoff races. No, I don't think that's realistic. Uh, I do think though, I do think if given no lag and given no incidents, I could probably finish about fifth or fourth in points. I wouldn't put it past me to do that because I'm more consistent than winning. But Larkins has a huge deficit over the field, and I think he's by far the championship favorite. I think HP and if not Koval, then Reiking will be the favorites to finish out that top 3 in the points. And then, looking through the rest of the field, if I had to predict it as the playoffs would sit, it's kind of looking like I'd assume Koval, myself, Rainbow, Adriani, and then Jasper, or Jasper and Adriani can flop. But that's what I'm thinking. I don't think not all too much to hit on for me and Adriani because we didn't show up all that much this season, but both have a win or 2 to our name, so I thought it was worth mentioning.
All right, I think that's it for this episode. About like around an hour and
Long.
4 minutes in. It's a pretty decent long run time. Unfortunately, that Mark didn't come on and speak his mind because I would have liked to see what he thought and also his thought process on signing people. Maybe we'll get to hear that another day, but that was pretty epic. I'm excited for the next few races, obviously playoffs as well. Uh, it'll be interesting to see where everything kind of goes from here. And also, silly season, earlier talked in the episode, madness. Everything's going everywhere. People are getting signs left and right. Uh, it might be tough for maybe some tryout drivers to actually get a ride next season. Now thinking about it, since trucks and Bush are getting filled up by like the second, it seems like. So we'll see what happens. That's it from me. Kai, any last thing you want to add before we head off?
Aiden is not the best 88, and he is not my pick to win the championship. That'll be a later episode, but setting now.
All right, that's it from us. We'll see y'all in a little bit.